Hello, everyone. My name is Vikram Mukherjee, and I'm so excited to be sitting here with Junaid Ali, a tabla player from London. Hi, Junaid. How are you doing?
Hi, Vikramji, how are you? I'm very well, thank you. I'm really excited to be part of this conversation, and I'd love to see where it ends up and what conversations we have. This is the first time we're actually having a formal conversation or informal conversation, and it's been a long time coming. So
Yes,
hopefully
yes.
we can unpack some wonderful thoughts.
No, the benefit of the world we live in now is we're also connected by Instagram, by YouTube.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's so cool to see, tabla players living parallel lives across the pond, right? That's really
absolutely.
awesome.
Yeah, I'm really
Yeah.
looking forward to it, like I said, and I think that whole COVID era has allowed this interconnection to come about so much more because we really necessarily didn't have, podcasts or video conversations much pre-COVID.
Mhm.
But I think in the advent of that, it's common and it's a long time coming. So I'm glad that you've sprung up this idea and chosen me to be part of this fantastic lineup of conversations as well.
No, the honor is seriously all mine. So let's just get straight into it. When did you first start to play tabla? And when
Yeah.
did you start to take tabla seriously? And was there a moment that you knew you wanted to take tabla seriously? And like, what was that moment?
Thank you. So a brief background about my Tabla heritage, if you will. So I don't necessarily come from a music family, so it's not something that my forefathers did or like generationally we've not done that. My father, however, he was born and raised in his early teenage years in Pakistan, and he just developed or was discovered to have a really beautiful voice. And
Wow.
he used to go to a Christian school in Pakistan. It was a really really good school, and he would sing for the choir and he'd sing hymns and stuff. And he discovered that he had a really good passion and an exciting passion for ghazal especially.
Hmm.
So he moved to this country when he was about 13. So we're talking about I'd say the 60s here, and he developed his interest in ghazal, and he started to learn from a couple of teachers that were here, and he started a really fruitful career in singing ghazals in this country, and then in the I believe it's early 80s, he became the Gandhar and Shagird of Ustad Khansaheb. So he
Wow. Yeah,
is,
man.
I'd say he's one of three in this country that
Yeah.
remain. So he's always been in this industry and always been in the field, and he was really, really. I say was because he's retired now, and I think in his retirement he's also retired from his riyaz and his singing. So hopefully people in the comments can urge him to start again because he doesn't listen to me.
Yeah.
So the advent of him performing so much, he was introduced to a young tabla player at the age of 16 called a young Shabazz Hussain.
Yeah, man.
And from the age of 16, where Ustadi was, and now he's in his mid 40s, like a partnership formed between my dad singing and Ustadi on tabla.
Hmm.
So, like I said, at the age of 16, Ustadi hadn't really toured much or performed much. And with my dad, they were everywhere, all over the UK, performing in London, up north, wherever, Birmingham, loads of these fantastic different areas. And so we're talking, this was maybe 1993.
Hmm.
I wasn't born until 1999. So they were touring and performing for a good 5 years. And incidentally, uh, the day that I was born, my dad and Ustaji had a concert in London.
Wow.
So Ustaji was like, I might as well come and not, there's no point canceling the concert. Let's come and, we'll see the baby, me, and then
Uh-huh.
we'll also do the concert too.
Uh-huh.
So he brought his mum along. So Ustaji and his mum, they drove down from Manchester, which is about 4.5, 5 hours away. And they got to the hospital. And my dad and Ustaji, they went to the concert. And my teacher's mum, so Ustaji's mum, she remained in the hospital with my mum. And she
Wow.
was actually the very first lady to hold me ahead of my own mum. So my Ustaji's mum was in the labor room and she held me first. So I mean, you can call it a strange sort of transference or a very strange higher power that put tabla in me. And very weirdly enough, my mum and dad recount this story that at the age of 11 months, I was playing rhythms on the table, like audible eight beat rhythms. And my
Mm.
mom called my dad one day at work saying, "Listen to this." My dad thought it was my mum, so he said,
Yeah.
"Well done, finally managed to adopt something." And
Yeah.
she goes, "No, this is Junaid. Junaid is performing this." And then the tabla came out, and the tabla never went back. So I mean, I always played, but like I said, I didn't want to learn from anyone else other than Ustad Shabhaz Hussain. That was my always in my head, always in my desires to do so. But again, he was very young. He was maybe 24, 25 when I was born.
Hmm.
Then he got very famous, and as you see him today as an international sensation, touring and everywhere. So we didn't really have a teacher-student kind of relationship because he was so busy. So I fell into the drum kit. I started
Hmm.
playing Western
Okay.
drums in school. So this was at the age of, I'd say, 4 till about 14. So I
Uh-huh.
played the drum kit for about 10 years. I could read Western music, and I was driven. And the tabla kind of took a back seat. So even though I had some sort of, understanding of how to play the tabla, it wasn't really, my passion. My passion was drumming, and I was quite good at it. I performed on TV a couple times as well, and
Wow.
I was performing with loads of different people. And as a South Asian, as a Pakistani, it was very rare to have a Pakistani drummer
Of
in,
course.
in, in London. But then on to your question of when that definitive moment was, I remember the day. So my dad stopped singing during the period where my teacher got very busy.
Uh-huh.
So he kind of took a back seat just due to some of the environment of the singing community in London just got a bit overwhelming. And I think so. He just took a back seat,
Yeah.
and he just focused on himself for many years. But then the many years kind of went too far, and he stopped singing completely.
Yeah.
So my mom and me and my sister, we had this idea of forming like a music council of London, where we would host concerts and we would have the very best of the
Amazing.
best in
Yeah.
in London. And this was under the name of Ghazal Sara UK.
Hmm.
We wanted to promote ghazals again because they were dying and no one was singing ghazals. So we had this idea that sparked in 2015. And then December of 2015, I remember the date, it was December 15th, 2015. I had the most amazing musicians come to my house. And it was Ustaji, it was one of Ustaji's students who came. There's a tabla player called Ustad Ghulam Abbas of Pakistan.
Hmm.
His son was here, Shahid Abbas Khan. We had a wonderful vocalist, Shaheen Gino Khan. We had Yawar Abbas, who was a fantastic vocalist of London at the time. And we had Amir Shaukhat Ali, who is the great Shaukhat Ali's son. And then we had my dad was there too. And
Wow.
I remember being in this environment of just hearing pure music, and I fell in love with it.
Yeah.
I completely fell in. I hadn't heard Ustadi play tabla like that in years since I was a
Yeah.
kid, maybe 3 or 4.
Yeah.
So I remember they all went into the kitchen about 1 o'clock in the morning to have dinner, and I shut the living room door and I opened the tablas up and I started to play something little, and I said, I think this is what I want to do. I think
Wow.
this is it. And imagine I haven't had any formal talim as such
Yeah.
since maybe I had one odd lesson in 2013 where Ustaji came over and he just taught me the basic da ti 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 ta ti 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 ti. That was
Uh-huh.
it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
something triggered in me where I said, I'm gonna do this. I'm
Yeah.
gonna do this. So at the time I was 16 years old. So that was my formal introduction of tabla, and then the rest is history. I had my shagirdi a few years later, and I'm now 26 years old. So it's been yeah, 10 years of starting this up again. And I was quite a late bloomer in that sense
Yeah.
because I was
Yeah.
16 starting from scratch,
Hmm.
and I had to really pick up quite quickly. But all of my mum and dad's blessings and Ustaji's love and his blessings, it's it's on. I think we're getting somewhere with this.
Yeah. No, definitely. Definitely. And we were just earlier talking prior to the podcast about parallel stories. So if you don't mind, I would like to
Absolutely.
share a little bit
Please,
of
please,
mine.
please.
I grew up in Mechanicsburg, which is a very small town in the center of Pennsylvania. So
Yeah,
just like yourself, I touched the tabla. I played at the Sunday school. We had a Hindu temple that was local and as a local teacher and
yeah,
played, didn't really take it too seriously. But then I also got into drum kit and I was in the marching band. I was taking that very, very
very nice.
seriously.
Yeah, yeah,
And a great thing about marching band and drum kit is that it teaches you so many different concepts, like the
yeah,
rudiments that they have,
yeah,
how to
yeah,
listen to each other, how to look at things in parts, how to subdivide. but I still had that, tabla in the back of my head, right? It's for us, I think living abroad, tabla is not only the instrument, it's also a way for us to connect with our identity, right?
Yeah,
Being South Asian. In a very unique way. So similar to you at the age of 16, I remember it was like winter break and I just started like randomly shooting off emails to random tabla teachers. And I was fortunate that it was a snow day that day, I remember. So in the US, snow days are a very big thing, right? You get that random day off from school.
yeah, same with
So
us, same with us.
I remember I was laying in bed and Pandaji, Samirji, just called me randomly on Zoom. And that's where it started. Like it's crazy that many of us, we have these shared experiences, if you will.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I think it's a diaspora thing, and many of us diaspora kids, I think we would, like you said, we do share a lot of the same experiences because as we mentioned off camera as well, it's very different compared to being back home where it's institutionalized. For us, there's a bit more exploring that we have to do until we find an opportunity or a way in which we can actually exercise this passion. So it's funny how we had that
Yeah.
mutual story.
And I mean, I think that as I've, hopefully furthered in my tabla career, sometimes these lessons from marching band or jazz
Yeah,
band,
yeah,
they end up hitting you in weird ways, right? Like,
absolutely.
one problem that I face with Sangat, right? I think that many of us face is, as a tabla player, we either have the tendency to slow up or we have this slow down or speed up, right? So, I played the bass drum. There's a lot of subdivision. So
Yeah,
the whole thing that they tell you when you're playing bass drum is you have to listen in, you have to listen in, you have to listen in.
absolutely.
And it's the same exact thing that's happening in Sangat as well.
Yeah,
You have to listen in. If you're not listening to your co-artists, then that tempo will not be steady.
it's not the
So
same. Absolutely.
it's all these small things are end up being very big things in reality. Yeah.
Definitely. And it's funny how universally what is, you know, distributed as a Western type of teaching fits so well with what we do and vice versa as well. I think
Vice versa.
this
Of
shows that
course.
that whole music thing is it's the same wherever you
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
It's the exact same thing. And
Yeah.
that's a very beautiful thing, I think.
So I'm going to go ahead and skip ahead a little bit.
Yeah.
So the UK is globally renowned for producing and being the home to many great tabla players. It has a, huge history
Absolutely.
of that. Um, Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe from sort of the 1960s, perhaps even before and beyond, just so many great
Yeah,
tabla players living,
yeah,
residing, teaching, performing in the UK.
absolutely.
Would you mind explaining a little bit about the scene? I know you explained a little bit before about the scene in the UK, but as you experience it now,
Hmm.
what are some sort of unique aspects of the classical, Hindustani classical music traditions in the UK and things like that?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So I think we're very lucky here. I think outside of India or the subcontinent, I do think London possibly has the best music hub for South Asian music. I really do think so. We've got so many institutions, and just speaking of London alone, we have a listed building. So a listed building in the UK is something that the royal family have said you can't touch this building. This is now
Hmm.
going to stay forever. And
Hmm.
one of the listed buildings is the Bhavan, which is
Oh,
located
okay.
in central London,
Yeah.
and it's a place for all forms of music to be taught, whether it's North Indian, South Indian, percussion, vocal, dance. They do everything, and that is again now it's institutionalized, so you can do it as a vocational course. You can go there, apply, and you get part of the program. So in one instance, you've got all of these different venues that give you an actual like a platform to teach and a
Hmm.
platform to learn as well. Because I know a lot of my contemporaries, a lot of my friends are now
Hmm.
teachers there
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
they once learned there, and that's just one example of London. Our our music promotions here are unbelievable. There's so many. I mean, namely, biggest in the world is probably the Darbar Festival, and
Yeah.
that's a London-based organization,
Yeah.
and they do such an amazing job. such a fantastic job at promoting, filtering through. And the one thing I've always loved about the bar is that irrespective of, at the end of the day, the whole concept is international artists and the top at the top. Every year there will be a homegrown artist, which I
Yeah.
think is it just shows that look, we've put the work in as a
Yeah.
country and as a diaspora,
Hmm.
we've done it. So whether it's my Ustaji or whether it's other UK born, there's a fantastic Santoor player called Isha
Hmm.
Singh. He was born and raised. I think he's 28, 27, 28. But he
Hmm.
was born and raised here, and he went through the
Wow.
development process, and he was given a massive debut at the bar.
Yeah.
Or if it's Rupa Banasarchi, who's
Hmm.
a beautiful sitar player. She's fantastic, possibly
Yeah.
one of the best in the world.
Yeah.
And
Love
I'm,
her
I'm
playing.
such a fan. I'm such a fan. Again, homegrown.
Yeah.
Just deep by. He was homegrown and he performed last year.
Hmm.
So every year they try to have this, and there's so many more names as well. Um, they try to have that, which I think it creates a buzz and an excitement internationally of, irrespective of being born here or there back home, we can still, we can get in the ring and we can, it's a good competition. No, I wouldn't say competition, but friendly competition in the sense that
Yeah.
we can do the
Inspiration.
same.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then, then you go up north and there's so many different organizations. You've got SAR UK, South Asian Arts, who I think are celebrating the 25th anniversary this year
Wow.
of being around. And, there's Ustad Singh who actually organized, he created SAR UK, one of
Uh-huh.
the founding fathers of it. And he taught Rupaji, he taught Jasdeep,
Yeah.
Sitar. And now these guys are now performing publicly.
Yeah.
So I think there's been, like you said, since the 60s, where there was Sahaiji in London
Mhm.
performing and then now teaching. It's created such a beautiful network, and I think there's a very niche sound, the London sound, the
Definitely.
UK sound. It's very niche.
Definitely. Yeah.
It's not. You
Irrespective of
can tell
Gharana. Yeah.
absolutely. You can tell that these guys aren't born and raised back home, but you can
Hmm.
tell that there's something there.
Of
Whether
course.
it's that we've had to put extra effort into it to, create an identity for ourselves, or whether,
Yeah.
like you said,
Yeah.
those Western tendencies have come in,
Hmm.
are playing somehow,
Yeah.
and we've found an ability to merge them in with the South Asian music and Western music,
Yeah.
and it's created such a pot of gold essentially where I sometimes listen to Ustaji and Rupaji. They perform together
Uh-huh.
in so many different venues, and I'm mesmerized that their connection first of all when they're on stage, it's sublime. But
Yeah.
then the ideas that spring about, and it's not to say that they're better or worse than our counterparts in South Asia, but it's to say that there's a different taste, and that
Different
taste
taste. Of
has
course.
created such a beautiful buzz in the UK, and
Yeah.
it continues. Whether it's tabla, I think tabla is probably the most saturated form of instrumentation in the UK of South
Yeah.
Asia. Everyone's a tabla player here,
Right.
which is so nice for us. It's so nice to see that where maybe 3, 4, 5 decades ago there was a handful. Now there's, I'd say, a good couple hundred of us here in the UK that are really exercising and trying our best to get to a place. But coming back to your point, I think it just comes all the way down to the fact that the UK has started to institutionalize music how it should be for South Asian music, and
Yes. Full
this is
stop.
a really exciting time. And I think especially this time now, where I'd say we're the third generation, because obviously you've got Sharda Sahaji was the first generation of the
Hmm.
UK cream of the cream, and then you've then got the Sanju Sahaji and Ustadjis and the Pinky Gs. That's that generation, and then now you've got the new generation.
Yeah.
So it's the third generation of musicians here in the UK, which is really exciting, really,
Yeah.
really, really exciting, and it's a whole new thing that's about to open up, and we'll see where we end up. It's really
And
cool.
to see that pipeline in front of you is just so
Yeah,
inspiring because it's
absolutely.
palpable, right? It doesn't feel like you have to go to,
Yeah,
home and then live there and
exactly,
then do that.
exactly.
You can still take it seriously despite being away. And then eventually,
Yeah,
I mean, I believe that everyone should go to India, should go to Pakistan
yeah, you
to
should
learn,
absolutely,
but
absolutely.
it's still so nice to see people so passionate just
Yeah.
around you as your neighbors. Yeah, it
It's
makes a
true,
huge
and
difference.
now, like for example, SAR UK, South Asian Arts, they do summer schools where you're there for a few days and you actually spend, physical time with your guru or your ustaji
Yeah.
or whoever's teaching you, and you're there for a few days to kind of create the mahal, the environment of being back home, because
Of
it's
course.
hard. Here it's hard. Like we've said off camera, we've got work responsibilities, we've got school if you're kids, and your gurus are so far away or they're not even in the country. Having the summer school or having these retreats is really important. And
It makes a
then
huge
once you've
difference.
had that ability, then you can go abroad and broaden your horizons. But I think
Yeah.
that's such an important factor to this as well. Is just these guys are doing a wonderful job, these promotions, and they're giving not only an opportunity to perform but to learn as well, which credit to them.
Yeah. Of Benares, and then you have your Guruji, who's a representative of so many different Gharanas, so many different
Mm,
Ustads. That's really where I wanted to ask my next couple of questions on.
yeah,
So obviously, for those who do not know, Ustad Shabhaz Hussain studied with Ustad Khansaheb, Ustad Mian Shaukhat Hussain Khansaheb, and Ustad Fayaz Khansaheb.
yeah.
And in no particular order. I believe I actually maybe did that very inversed. But if you don't mind, please discuss those influences and
Yeah,
your reflections on them. You're receiving now that sort of second leg of information.
yeah, yeah.
Your ustad has synthesized it, and now they're giving it to you. So, what is your sort of thought process on these individuals, and how does that impact your approach to tabla?
Absolutely. Really good question. Yeah, you're right. It's very like chalk and cheese in the sense that the two Gharanas are so different. I mean, you've got Delhi Gharana and then you've got the Punjab Gharana, which by default are just the opposite ends of the spectrum in terms of like the boisterousness of the being robust and being loud and magnanimous on one end with the Punjab Gharana, and then the Delhi Gharana was full of intricacy and nuance and sound and just being light with your touches as well, which I think is it causes a really beautiful link between the two, where you might think that they're so different apart that they can't be used or intertwined together, but then you've got maestros like Ustadji, maestros like Miyasab, who have merged them together in such a beautiful way
Yeah,
to create their own style. So, funnily enough, Mia Shaukhat Hussain Khan Sahab was firstly a student of the Delhi Gharana. So he
right.
was a student in India in Jalandhar with a wonderful maestro called Pandit Hiralalji, who was a Delhi Gharana exponent. And then once he shifted to Punjab after post partition, then he learned from Mia Qadir Bakhshji.
Wow.
So he had that double,
Yeah,
amalgamation there. And then same with Ustadji as well. His first guru was Ustad Fayaz Khan Sahib of the Delhi Gharana. And then 2 3 years later, then he wound himself up with Ustad Mia Shaukat Hussain Khan Sahib. And then another 5 years later, he found himself with the master of the Punjab Gharana, Abaji,
yeah,
Ustad Khan Sahib, which it's just allowed us to really open up our mindsets to seeing, you know, when to use what,
yeah,
which I think is really, really important, especially when it comes to accompaniment and even in solos, really. What are you presenting? Does it
yeah,
follow a logical flow? I mean, there are so many times where Astaji says to me, think about the rag that's being played. If
yeah,
you're performing with a sitar player or solo player or vocalist, think about the rag. Is it appropriate for you at that time to play something, extravagantly Punjab, or at that moment in time, is it more appropriate for you to use something smaller and more appropriate from the Delhi school of music? So it's
yeah,
allowed us to really have, instead of just one massive filing cabinet, we now have two, and then
yeah,
there's a
yeah.
shared compartment in there as well where we can use both.
Beautiful
And
analogy.
exactly, thank you. And Mia Shaukat Singh Khan Sahib, he really pioneered this whole the
Yeah,
use of both the Delhi and Punjab schools of thought and merging them into his own Baj, which no one loved today with the likes of Ustad Tariq Khan Sahib, Ustad Shabazz Hussain Khan Sahib, and we're now trying to replicate the same thing as well, of using the same principles, but now just forming one circle where you can't say it's fully Delhi, neither can you say it's fully Punjab.
No, and
But
that's
you
where the
can say that
identity
the
comes in.
Absolutely,
Yeah, yeah,
absolutely. So I think it's like I said, just to answer your question, it's really allowed us to see things from a very nuanced perspective and given us more exposure to what's appropriate at that specific time. And then it really does help with Riyaz as well. I think Riyaz is really, you can dedicate your time a lot more to, it's not just being loud and
yeah,
having a heavy hand, but then can you now spend a day just playing the most simple and intricate da 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 da
yeah,
or something like
yeah.
that.
And then being able
It
to take it from
really
different
helps you.
perspectives as well.
Yeah,
How would this
yeah,
person look at it? How would that person look at it?
absolutely,
That's a
absolutely.
great way
So
to train your brain.
it's really helped, really, really helped. And there's still so much for us, well, for me particularly, to uncover. But it's just beautiful to be able to, and it comes down to that whole accessibility thing. It's so good to be able to be in a country where music programs are constantly being promoted and hosted, and Ustaji is constantly being, on stage. So I
Yeah,
get to hear him with so many different personalities and so many different instruments and rags that I can visualize what he means by really think about what's appropriate here. Because for the layman, I
makes
mean,
no
everything's
difference.
appropriate. Yeah, I
Exactly.
mean, if someone's is playing Rag Hansadwani or Darbari, I mean, shouldn't I play the same thing? But then
No.
you really realize after a while that actually, no, this things are much more appropriate for this than they are for that. So it's a
Yeah.
really nice. I'd say I'm really fortunate to be part of two beautiful schools of music.
And if I may say so, being in the US, especially now, a part of me is getting actually very jealous of you because of the amount of money that is going
It's
towards
true.
arts.
It's true.
Um,
It's true.
and yeah, I know that it's a very tough time for musicians, at least here in
Yeah.
the US,
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
try to receive funding for their arts. But I mean, look to the other side, right? See what the benefit is, and we understand that this benefits not only for the music, actually. It's the
Yeah.
health of the community at large
Absolutely.
that
Absolutely.
gets benefited, right?
Especially the
Yeah.
new generation, like we were saying before. I think for the diaspora that we've really come. I, uh, I just want to mention that, like, if you take the last decade or two, Tabla really wasn't. I mean, the classical arts weren't really a point of interest for the
Yeah.
diaspora students.
Especially
Like,
for the
I'm the only
diaspora.
one. I'm the only one that I know that plays tabla and I mean take has taken it seriously
Yeah.
from my friend. I mean from my area. I'm the only
Yeah.
one here. And
Mm-hmm.
and on top of that being a Pakistani, on top of that being a Muslim,
Mm.
it's just unheard of at the moment. But
Very rare.
I really think now in the last, I'd say post COVID, there's been I'm speaking from London particularly. I mean, classical music is cool again. Like
Yeah.
it's really cool again. People are
Yeah.
learning it. People are really. Maybe it's social media that you have these now. Kids at university, especially in London, that are born and raised here, outwardly cool guys. Now
Yeah.
they're playing whatever little repertoire they know of tabla and getting
Yeah.
millions of likes and stuff. It's now become cool,
No,
and I
it
think
is
that's
very cool.
but without that, like you said, it's so important for the community
Yeah.
to give them a way to really get in touch with their roots. But then now, like I said, I think it's being used everywhere. Like whether it's in games, whether it's in music videos and music itself, and Western
Yeah.
music, South Asian music is being played, and it's not being distorted.
No.
It's as it is, which
I
is
think there was a
is
Apple commercial not too long ago where they literally
yeah,
had
yeah,
just
yeah, yeah.
Parant the whole time. And it
Exactly,
was pure proper Parant.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's the same with Monkey Man, the movie that
Monkey
has
Man. Yeah, yeah.
Zaki Saab in there. And then I've performed with, for example, Skrillex.
Yes.
Skrillex has sampled my tabla and sarod and
Va.
sarangi
Kevin.
and vocals, but he didn't change it. He kept it how it is. So it's like
Yeah.
there's a real shift now that's gone from, yeah, let's maybe sample it and then we can make like, Beyonce sampled South Asian music quite a lot and
Hmm.
let's distort it so you can't really tell, to now let's keep it exactly how it is. But that's only because of the community that's been built to make
Right.
it cool again.
Right.
I think it's just touching on your point. It's really important to have community
And
cohesion here.
because you brought it up, I'm going to go on a small tangent.
Yeah,
One thing that I really enjoyed it from your music is your collaborations with Raf Saperra
yeah,
Ji.
yeah, 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 yeah.
And obviously with Nachle Sonia, who would know that somebody like that would actually have such proper, you can tell in his music that's very educated music.
Absolutely,
He's not pulling
absolutely,
from random places, which can't be said about all South Asian artists for sure.
absolutely,
So
absolutely.
it's so good to see the authenticity and the identity being progressed into something that's palatable in a club, right?
Yeah, yeah.
That's pretty cool. Yeah,
Really
yeah.
cool. And I mean, just to go off on a tangent here, I see him as my actual older brother. Like he's probably my closest friend and my closest brother-like figure that I have. He's actually had classical talim
You can
from
tell. Yeah,
the Shamturasi Gharana.
yeah.
So he's a student of the Shamturasi Gharana. So he's his grandfather guru is Ustad Salamat Ali Khan Sahab.
Yeah.
So he learns from Ustad Latafat Ali Khan Sahab. So
Mm.
it's so crazy how he also has broadened this music into such beautiful horizons. And just going back to that whole how it's cool again,
Yeah.
I'm a big football fan,
Yeah.
and every year we've got FIFA that comes out. FIFA
Right.
is the biggest football game in the world.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
His music is on FIFA this year for
That's
FIFA
crazy.
26,
The
which
2026.
is
Yeah.
insane. It's
Yeah. Yeah.
crazy. So I'm playing FIFA. The thing that you look forward to the most as a football fan is the FIFA soundtrack. What's going to
Of
be on?
course. Of
And now
course.
we've got tabla, we've got sarangi, we've got dole, we've got classical music being
Yeah.
played in the game.
Yeah.
It's fantastic, and he's doing such a fantastic job, and more success to him, and more collaborations from us both, and
Yeah.
we've got very many cool things in the pipeline, I hope.
I mean, yeah, definitely as a tabla player, you realize how small the world and how small the connections can be
Yeah,
when somebody draws upon their own inspirations, right? Like here we are
absolutely.
talking on Zoom, right? As
Yeah,
fellow tabla players, but if when you meet other people that are also
yeah.
equally as passionate about the arts, it just creates a much better artistic community globally.
Honestly,
So, and better music, honestly,
honestly.
better, way better music.
And just to add on to this, and I'm sure he won't mind me saying this story, but in his last album that he released called "She Loved Me, She Loves Me Not,"
Yeah.
there was one track that he wanted me to play a few things for, and that
Mhm.
song was a Qawwali track,
Yes.
and
Beautiful. Yeah.
it was called Nazara.
Yeah.
So the Nazara that you hear in the album isn't the Nazara that was planned.
Uh-huh.
And this is just a beautiful segue into what you just said in terms of, like-minded people can create beautiful things.
Uh-huh.
The original track for Nazara was, like I said, completely different. What
Yeah.
you hear there, there's nothing similar to it.
Yeah.
It was a very different take. It was very much a club anthem that would have really rocketed and done fantastic things. Due to unforeseen circumstances, that wasn't able to amount. It didn't it didn't blossom.
Yeah.
So we were in the studio and we were a little bit stressed out in terms of what do we do here? Like
Uh-huh.
what do we do?
Yeah.
And I kid you not, from recording the tabla
Uh-huh.
to what you hear in the album, it took 8 hours from beginning to end. That was it. And that was
Yeah.
with me playing the tabla, him recording his raw vocals on there, us sending this over to Pakistan to
Yeah.
get the claps put in and the backing vocals and the harmonium put in. It
Yeah.
was ready by the morning.
Yeah.
So something that was, it wasn't meant to happen, ended up being on the album and being one of his, people loved the track Nazara, which is
Yeah.
it's a really
I love
beautiful
it.
thing.
Yeah. And I think it
Thank
definitely
you.
it speaks to the fact that like we all share this common language in music, despite
Absolutely.
none of us ever meeting each other or playing with each other, it is the only art form that two
Yeah.
people from different parts of the world can sit on the same stage and play
Yeah, yeah,
something.
yeah. Exactly.
Period.
Exactly.
Full stop. And that's something that I feel extremely proud to be a part of.
Absolutely. So I
Yeah.
just really wanted to mention that just as a
No, what a
segue
beautiful
into
story.
saying how like-minded musicians can create great things
Yeah.
that aren't necessarily planned.
Yeah. And to the lay person, if I may add, they might not be
Yeah.
seeing that music as being traditional or classical,
Hmm.
right? But you're both drawing upon those references to create
Yeah.
that final project, right?
Absolutely.
So the speed at which, the quality of it, it comes
Yeah.
from somewhere, right? Yeah,
Definitely.
yeah. If I may add.
Yeah. Please. 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 Please.
So I'm going to go back a little bit. I know we've been doing a
Yeah.
little bit of back and forth and
Jump
talk
in.
talk specifically about Mian Shaukhat Hussain concept.
जी.
Um, so what are some of the interesting things that you find about Shaukhat Saab's playing? I know you mentioned in the past, that those two identities, one being from Delhi, one being from
Yeah,
Punjab, mixing it together. Um, but maybe in specific, if I could ask you about maybe two observations I had.
yeah.
Um, the first observation, based off my listening experience, is the way that Shaukat Saab's compositions break the matra. It's so
Absolutely.
unconventional, or it breaks the
Absolutely.
tal. I'm using the word break. I hope you
No,
don't
no, no.
mind it.
Absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
Guruji taught me one of his kaidas, "Dhagina dhati dhagitu nagina, dhagina dhati dhagitu nagina, dhati dhati dhagitu
Uh-huh.
nagina." It doesn't. If I was saying that without a tali, how could you tell that was in
Yeah,
tintal?
yeah,
The
yeah.
brain when it's first perceiving that kaida, it's not coming as that. So I wanted
Absolutely.
to hear your perspective on these things.
Definitely. I think in terms of the cutting of the matra,
Yeah.
it's he specialized in that. So amazing from my observations as well, because I've only heard it through Ustaji and recordings. But I would say I'm such a fan of Mia Saab that there's not one recording that I haven't heard or studied in such detail.
Yeah.
And there's not a day that goes by where I don't listen to his tabla.
Yeah.
And there's a reason for that. And the reason is the sound production. I think
Yeah.
above everything, you can be the fastest tabla player, you can be the most mathematical tabla player, any of these great traits of a tabla player. But from my observations of Mia Saab is sound.
Yeah.
There's many anecdotes, many stories of him taking his tabla out on stage and just playing one sur on the daya to
Yeah.
start to tune it, and people are crying
Yeah.
in the audience,
Yeah.
and they're throwing money at him, they're throwing gold at him, people are throwing watches at him.
Wow.
These are documented stories from his family
Yeah.
and from
Yeah.
witnesses that were there. And
Uh-huh.
this wasn't the first. It's not like a one-off occasion. If you hear any of his recordings, his very first da, people were crying, or the whole room was exploding.
Yeah.
So there's that element of sound which I think is unbeatable, and whether it's biasness or whether it's just a love that I have for him as a musician, even as a person, I just I haven't resonated with tabla more in my life
Yeah.
than when I hear the da of Mia Saab.
Yeah.
It's something else, and whether you listen to interviews of Tari Saab and interviews of Ustaji and even conversations with him, they say that his the modulation of his
Wow.
tabla, the size of his hands is unconventional. Like you shouldn't be
Extremely.
playing tabla that fast and that crisp
Yeah.
with fingers and hands as big as his were.
Right.
So
Right.
I mean that's the fundamental thing, and then onto the cutting part. It's I've heard compositions like you said that one there is such an amazing composition, and I think it just keeps the listener audibly engaged
Of
because
course.
we're very much in a position now of tabla solos can go on for 2 hours, an hour and a half, an hour
Yeah.
and 45 minutes, and you really need to remain, locked in with your audience.
Yeah.
And how do
Yeah.
you how can you do that if you're playing the same repertoire? So largely speaking, in the Punjab traditions, the peshkar wasn't as developed as you see it now. I
Right.
mean, now someone can play a peshkar up to 50 minutes, 45
Yeah.
minutes.
Yeah.
In Punjab, the peshkar starts at around 60 beats per minute, which
Yeah.
is, I mean,
Pretty
that's
fast,
unheard of.
relatively.
Really
Yeah.
fast.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's like you have to, how are you going to grab the attention of the person who's listening?
Yeah.
Whether that's through the vela, whether that's through the gut, whether that's through the qaida.
Mm-hmm.
All of Mia Saab's qaidas that I've heard have
Mm-hmm.
had an element of unique, nuanced cuttings.
Yes.
There's a really beautiful qaida, probably one of my favorite qaidas in Ari. I'm just going to recite it for
Please.
you.
Please.
So it's
Please.
uh, 1, 2, 3, 4. Dati gena, dati dagate tiketa, dagena, dati tegena tina,
Ah.
dati gena, dagena, dati tegena tina gena, dati gena, dati ta, titiketa, dagena, dati tiketa tina gena, dati gena, dagena, dati tegena tina gena, da.
Yeah.
So
But
the cutting of that, and for it to be in threes as well, where you're still juggling the 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, but
yes.
there's a ticket in there, then there's the modulation of the datigina, datigina, datigina.
Yeah.
So when you play it in double, you still got those cuts at the right time,
Yeah.
but it's you're now like you're in a soundscape where you're
Yeah.
hearing all these different sounds and all these different nuances on the tabla.
Hmm.
And I think he was just a master at being able to grasp the audience with his qaidas. There's another one as well, which again is one of my personal favorites. Just by using consecutive tiriqats,
Hmm.
the entire composition, the entire qaida rela is just using tiriqat. That's it, or
Yeah.
consecutively tiriqat, tiriqat.
Yeah.
So one, two, uh, 1, 2, 3, 4. Then ticket, target ticket, target ticket, ticket, target ticket, ticket, target ticket, target ticket, target. Oh, sorry. 1, 2. I'm gonna play it.
Please. Ah, really chill. Mm.
So there's just so many delicacies. Even just then, just as a normal person, you lose the like where actually is the
Yeah,
marking
we're
of the actual composition. It's so nuanced.
yeah.
Then dedicate target dedicate target dedicate dedicate target dedicate dedicate target dedicate target dedicate target dedicate dedicate target dedicate dedicate then dedicate target dedicate.
Yeah.
So it's just they come out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And then obviously once you play it in double, it's completely different ball game.
Yeah.
So his cutting was so beautiful in the guy does, but then in guts, completely different
Yeah.
ball game again. His guts was so tremendous in terms of how they cut. And there's a really famous gut of his that many people don't play, just because of how difficult the fingering technique is of this at such an awkward point.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm sure you love this one. I'll just play.
Please,
They're
please.
done, but I'll just recite just one below of it. So din din na din din na da din din na din din na din din na din din na da nika da din da nika da nika da nika nika da nika da nika da nika da nika da nika da din na nika da
Uh-huh.
da din na nika da da din na nika da nika da din da nika. So it comes out of nowhere.
Yeah.
So I'll just play it for you so you
Please
can
do.
get it.
Uh-huh.
So just out of nowhere.
Yeah.
దానికట దానికి 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 దగిన దానికి దరికి 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 దానికి దరికి దగిన.
Yeah.
So putting that in one, I mean, how do they even come up with that
Yeah.
stuff? It's just so beyond me, and it's
And
just cutting is you're such a beautiful thing that you picked up there.
it's so amazing also, especially in this age, as young tabla players, we have the want and need inkling, I would say, to
Mm.
overcomplicate things.
Yeah,
But these ustads, these pundits, they made such complicated things out of so seemingly simple bowls.
absolutely, absolutely. Ditter 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 whatever it is ditter ditter,
Yeah. You learn
and
those
then
all
you
within the
play.
first year of playing tabla. It's nothing,
Yeah,
nothing, nothing
yeah.
difficult. But when
Yeah,
you try to
like that
process,
composition.
yeah,
Yeah, it's insane. Like that composition, I mean, like you said, the fundamentals of tabla dedicate, and you've
yeah,
now made a whole qaida
yeah,
based on consecutive dedicates, and now you get stuck because you're like, oh, this is actually a bit harder
of
than
course,
I thought. Or whether
yeah,
it's a dete dete,
hmm,
that's seemingly its first qaida you learn. Da dete da dete da dete da gatina gina.
hmm,
Now you've made qaidas that are again following the whole nuance of the this way, and
yeah,
then
inverse, right,
the reverse, and now you're like, oh, it's really tricky,
challenging,
really tricky, and
yeah.
that was just his majesty was in that, in the sound production and his cutting of kaidas and guts, which was absolutely amazing, honestly.
No, thank you for sharing these compositions. I may even
Yeah, please,
steal them from you at some point.
please, yeah, please play them,
Yeah, no, they're gorgeous, gorgeous, and
amazing,
oftentimes, listening to recordings, you don't get that. It's very hard to make that composition personable, right? I
absolutely,
I think in my tabla experience, when I hear certain compositions, I know the place, the setting, what I ate, the
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
where I heard that composition for it to stick, right?
Absolutely,
There,
absolutely.
you're talking about psychology, right? It's multi-sensory processing at its
Yeah,
finest,
yeah,
at its finest.
exactly that.
Um, Again, going one step into, you mentioned Ustachi's sound production, and this has been a question on my mind for a long time.
Hmm.
Um, Noticing the structures of tablas in Punjab, in Pakistan, I've
Yeah,
noticed that the kinar is a little bit thinner, and the
yeah,
baya tends to be a little bit more compact and raised. Um, Obviously, when you see Shaukhat Saab's modulation process and just the way his hand is sitting over the tabla,
yeah.
it's I don't know. I don't know how he got that, but when you see his fingers moving, it's all making sense, right? Um,
Absolutely.
Please don't take me wrong here, but in some ways unconventional.
Yeah, absolutely. No, no,
Yeah.
you're completely correct. I think there are some fundamental differences that you've rightly identified in the actual makeup of the tabla across the two countries. There's me personally, I there is a beauty that I'm yet to find in a Lahori, typical Punjabi Lahori bayan.
Hmm.
There is something about the softness of the skin
Mm.
that really allows for modulation to take place.
Yeah.
And then you are right in the sense of like this is a very typical um, Indian bayan, if you like.
Yeah.
It's got a
Mm.
copper shell, very heavy,
Mm.
and it's got a muqtada skin on top.
Yeah.
Um, you can see that the kinar is quite high up on the tabla.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
the metal end's here, and
Uh-huh.
then the kinar is right there.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
then if I show you this example of a Lahori bayan,
Right.
you can see that the kinar is bent over.
Yeah.
It folds over. So
And
the
even the
metal end
shaping, the
here.
hammering is different.
Exactly, yeah. So this is a very, again, this is a conventional tabla, Lahori style tabla, which you never sort of see that
No.
with our neighbors
Yeah.
because they're normally oval like this.
Yes.
So this complements the sound, I would say. So the stomach
Definitely.
usually, so this part here is usually quite wide,
Uh-huh.
and then the mouth of the actual shell is a lot smaller.
Right. Right.
And copper really isn't used too much for bayans in Pakistan, and they're not necessarily heavy either. So
Mm-hmm.
this tabla is quite light.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I've got another one here in terms of because you were mentioning how they're much more compact.
Yeah.
This is so
Wow.
tiny
It's
compared
very
to
tiny.
it's so tiny. Look at the differences.
Yeah, I
It's
would
like
tell you that's
iron.
a kid's tabla. Like it looks
Absolutely,
like
but I
it, you know?
mean, it's a typical Lahori tabla. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, the shell has been hammered to that specific. Again, the
Yeah.
stomach is a bit wider,
Yeah.
the base is smaller, and then the top is smaller again. This part it always is much
Yeah.
bigger. And then if you just hear the resonance, if I don't know if you pick it up.
Yeah.
So this is my Muqtada bayan,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
which I tend to use usually just for accompaniment with sitar or wherever. If I'm performing in public, I would always use this bayan.
Yeah.
But then you have this bayan, for example, which is a very old skid,
Mm.
and it goes on for so much, even though it's so much smaller.
Yeah, you wouldn't expect that sound from that size.
You would never expect that sound. Equally with this one as well.
Yeah.
The resonance for this tabla,
Bah. Bah.
and so like if I was just to play, for example, on this bayan, something super simple like da da di da gina da di da gina gina.
Mm. Ah. Kebab.
So I mean, it's good for accompaniment. Like
Yeah.
'cause it's sensitive.
It's not distracting. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But then as soon as you swap it out for this tabla, which probably isn't even the one of the best that I've had of Lahori Bayan,
Yeah.
but it allows you so much for that modulation to take place.
Yeah. Aha. Aha. Nice.
It just and it's less effort because I'm not
Yeah.
really moving my hand too far up and down. And there's another reason for that. That's the CI. And I think
I
that's
was
just
noticing that the
really
Syahi is a lot bigger in,
yes, and it's flush. So
yeah,
where you have like a conventional, um,
Syahi,
a
it's
CI
raised.
pen, it's raised. Yeah, so
Yeah, yeah,
there's always a maybe like a millimeter raise.
of
With
course.
the Pakistani, with the Lahori baya or any Pakistani baya, it's
Hmm.
flush usually,
Yeah,
usually,
yeah,
and
yeah.
that's again it allows for that modulation to
Modulation.
take place
Yeah,
because now it's having direct contact with the skin
yeah,
and the CI, so you can
yeah.
slide more. So
Hmm.
like for example, if I was giving you that,
Uh, Sorry. Mm. Uh, yeah, you can feel the
it
character.
allows you, yeah, it allows
Uh,
you so much more maneuver to do the whereas if I'm using the other bind, it just makes it a tiny bit difficult.
yeah,
So
yeah,
I think that's just the materials that they use.
yeah.
So I know there's lots of salt that's used in the siahi mix,
Right. Everyone's secret recipe,
which
right?
exactly everyone's got a
Yeah,
different method of
yeah,
using it,
yeah.
and usually I like to do. I mean, Ustadi spent a lot of time with some tabla makers in Pakistan, so we've picked up some ways of doing the CIE. So
Right.
this is, I mean, I'm sure you played a Muqtadas tabla
Yeah, yeah,
in your
yeah.
time, and he's got a very unique CIE.
Right, right.
But I took it all off,
Yeah.
and I reapplied it with Pakistani CIE.
You did the application yourself of the
Yeah, yeah.
Syahi? Wow,
So
nice.
about 60% of it. So I
Uh,
sanded most of it off, and then I
uh,
applied it again to give it that
that
same
feeling. Yeah.
feel.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
now it's not raised up anymore. So
Hmm.
the actual CI is flush
Yeah,
on the tabla. It's
yeah.
the same thing with the dyna as well. The dynas are curved. I don't have one to show you
Uh-huh.
because they're all under renovation. But I've made a super hybrid here, which is it's a Lahori shell with a
Uh,
Qasim Niazi skin. So
okay.
it's a bit of a double trouble there. But I find, and a lot of tabla players that I know, they find the killer combo is a Lahori baya, Pakistani baya, and a Dayan from India. I think
Yeah.
that's the killer combo. That's a perfect tabla there.
No, it's definitely interesting to hear you saying this because I feel like for me, right, I'm half Bengali, so I
Yeah,
have I have an affinity towards the drums from Bengal.
yeah,
But
yeah,
obviously
yeah,
with the winter here, if you get a very thinly skinned, like Muqtada's head, one winter
yeah.
it's gone. He might not have much
Exactly,
hope. Um,
exactly.
so similar, like I would prefer, a Dahina perhaps from Kasim Khan Niazi, and
Yeah,
then a Baya from Bengal because the what I've heard is that the the goat that is actually slaughtered in Kali Puja is typically younger. So
okay.
that makes the skin thinner. I don't know if this is true. I have no way to verify it or
I
not.
think you might be right. I think you might because even just looking at these two skins right now in front of me, you can see this one is a lot harder in terms
Yeah.
of
Yeah, it's
like
denser.
it's denser. Like whether I'm touching the edge or with my nail or the middle, I'm getting the same thing. Whereas if
Right.
I use this tabla here,
Huge, huge differences. Yeah.
it's so soft. Like
Yeah.
you will
Yeah.
get the sound of the tabla. Whereas here I'm getting the sound of the skin.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
That's still the skin. Like
Yeah.
if I'm playing the duff or something,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
so tight across
Right.
that you can hear the skin as
Resonating more than the
opposed to
Syahi.
exactly. Whereas
Yeah.
this one, no matter where you touch it,
No, you're
it's the
hearing that
bass,
same resonance. Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's contributed to that thinness or it must be the type of animal that they're using as well.
No.
Maybe the age or the breed because it does. I think it contributes for sure.
I mean, especially when you're coming back to that original point that you made about what you gravitate towards Shaukhat Saab's playing,
Mm,
is that sound production. And,
absolutely.
a key part of sound production is the tools you use, right? It's the tools you
Yeah.
use and the involvement that you have with that. So, when I heard you just playing the Lahori Baya, there's so much character to it. There's so much
Yeah.
identity attached to that. That to somebody who might not be as familiar with tabla or music in general, they would just think, oh, it's the same sound, right? But no,
Exactly.
it's a world
Exactly.
of difference, right? It's a heritage that you're carrying with you, and I think that's such an
Absolutely.
amazing thing.
Absolutely. And credit to these tabla makers because they're
Seriously.
constantly innovating, they're constantly working, and they're constantly trying out new things to make sure that they've got the best sound quality. And I equally respect and love all of them.
Yeah.
It's just a very expensive time period at the moment
It's a
to
very
have a tabla.
expensive time period.
Yeah.
Also an addiction, right? I think
A
that,
big addiction. Big addiction.
it's I'm going to India to do some wedding shopping, and under the guise of wedding
Wedding.
shopping, I will be keeping one suitcase
Little things.
aside for some
Yeah,
tablas.
absolutely. Absolutely. You have to.
I
It's
have to,
like
yeah.
it's you're right, it's such an addiction, and because they're temperamental in terms of you may have one tabla that will last you 10 years, and then you might have another one that will last you 15 minutes. So it's like a hit every time you get one. And
It's a
is it going
huge,
to be
yeah,
for is it going to sound nicer than that one? Is this tabla maker better than that tabla maker? And it's
yeah.
just you're constantly, oh yeah, let me try, let me try.
Yeah. But then we talk about the catharsis that can happen sometimes with Riaz, right? Like
Yeah,
certain times, right? I was just giving you an example. Like I had a tabla that's buzzing, and I was wondering like how come my Riaz isn't giving me that same sense of like
yeah, satisfaction.
energy that I
Mm,
get. And then I switched it the other day. I was like, you idiot. Of course.
yeah,
Like this is the reason that sound constantly
yeah,
reverberating in your ear makes a
yeah.
huge difference.
Absolutely, and that's just again, that's just the basics of science as well in terms
Yeah.
of you know your brain frequency, your body frequency, and if you're hearing a constant buzz,
Yeah.
it does get to you. Like
Yeah.
it does get to you, and then obviously we just have to end up buying a new one, or if you're lucky enough to know how to sort it out, then happy days. But the sound frequencies are an important thing, and I always say that if well, I try to change the areas of my riyaz as much as you can do as
Yes.
well, because there's
Yes.
different places that are going to give you different reverberations.
Yeah.
And then maybe the thing that you're hearing in this part of the room, you might be thinking that, oh, why is this not coming out, or why does this not sound good? But then you move to another side of the room and you just realize it's just the acoustics of the place. So
Exactly.
sounds have such reverberations within us that it's just important to find that sweet spot of where, like geographically
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
your house or wherever you are, is best for you.
But even that is a Riaz in itself, right? In the sense that trying to create a consistent sound despite of where you're
Yeah,
at. Because, we're
absolutely.
all listening to these old recordings of masters with terrible microphones. And
Yeah,
they're making the tabla sing. So
absolutely,
where's our excuse?
absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
It's insane when you think about it. Whether that's just I sometimes do think about whether it's maybe the quality of the tablas aren't the same as they used to be, which to some degree there is some of that
Yeah,
golden
definitely,
era of
definitely.
tabla makers. I mean, like Ustad Qasim Niazi is no longer with us, so
Yeah,
it's how much have you departed? Mia Saab's tabla maker is no longer around, and there's other big tabla makers that have moved on from this world, and
yeah,
that could be a factor. But you're right, they did something magical
yeah,
when they had the minimal microphones. Sometimes I've heard recordings where there was no microphones, and it's just in the room,
yeah.
and it's just like
Amazing. Yeah.
honestly, you lose your mind. There's an
Yeah, you get
archive of
lost.
yeah, there's an archive of private collection Mia Saab recordings that only a few of his students have, and
Mhm.
and obviously then their students, and I think to myself, how has this even been, how have you done this with nothing, no microphone, nothing, just a room full of
No,
artists and a
crazy.
harmonium.
Yeah.
It's insane, honestly.
Hey, Junaid, bhai, thank you for all that amazing information. This is just sort of the last segment and sort of one quick rapid fire question, if you will. But
Yeah,
as you can see, we could talk about all these topics for days on end,
long time. Yeah,
and still not get bored. And
yeah,
that's just talking, not even playing.
yeah.
So,
Exactly that. Exactly.
no, my final question to you is there one recording you keep coming back to, and
Yeah.
why? Why do you keep coming back to that recording?
So I'm gonna cheat a little bit and give you two because I
Please
can
do,
choose
please do.
between the
Extra,
two.
extra
I
credit,
really
extra
can.
credit.
Yeah. So my all-time favorite recording that I always come back to, it's a very private recording of Ustad Dari Saab and Mia Saab together performing a duet,
A duet.
and
Okay.
a
Okay.
duet, and it's about an hour and 15 minutes long. And they perform Teen Tal for about an hour, and then they perform Rupak for the next 15 minutes. And it's a very interesting tabla solo because there's some context behind the solo that Mia Saab and another very established tabla player, they had a bit of miscommunication about a specific thing, and this was the first time Mia Saab was seeing him after this whole saga had happened. So Mia
Yeah.
Saab was very energized, and he was very vocal in this tabla solo,
Uh,
and it's just colleagues teasing each other,
yeah.
um, and it's a very funny solo. So but I've never ever heard Mia Saab sound production as amazing as that. So
Wow.
he must have definitely felt a certain energy in the room, and it was the death anniversary of Ustad Nusrat Ali Khansaheb's
Ah.
father.
Wow.
So it used to be an annual event,
Yeah.
massive,
Sort
big,
of
massive,
Barsi event. Yeah.
yeah, massive Barsi event, and for some reason they've stopped it. But Nusrat Ali Khansaheb used to organize it,
Hmm.
and he organized the tabla solo, and it was. I do think there is a 10-15 minute recording on YouTube somewhere, so I'll
Yeah.
definitely be sure to send it to you.
No,
But
please do.
my second one is it's a lockdown tabla solo of my
Uh-huh.
Ustadji performing Jaital in
Wow.
his living room with
Yeah.
no sound, no nothing. He's playing a nagma from his phone. But I've never like that's my all-time favorite recording of him. Um, it's amazing, honestly. That's on YouTube. I urge you to watch it. It's only about 10 minutes long,
Mm.
but it is amazing. It's his sound production, and I think that time period of lockdown was so refreshing for all the ustads because it just gave him a chance to, not performing anywhere. Let me just
Delve in.
revert
Yeah.
back to my diyas,
Mm.
and his sound production in that video. His sound production anyway makes me lose my mind. Quite
Mm.
literally, I get migraines after I listen to him play because there's so much for me to
Yeah.
take in.
It's almost
So that
overwhelming. It's
it's
that beautiful.
overwhelming. It's
Yeah. Yeah.
overwhelming. But that particular tabla solo, I urge you to watch it. Just if anyone who's watching, just type in Ustad Shabhaz Hussain Jaital, and
Yeah.
it's just a lockdown video where he's in his living room, and it's phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. I have many, 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 but those two I will just narrow
No.
down to my
No.
my
Thank you for
go-to tabla
sharing.
solos. Thank you,
And
honestly.
and I'm going to indulge myself a little bit here and
Yeah,
make two comments.
yeah,
One, the Rupak recordings that I've heard from uh, Tai Khan Saab, Shaukhat Hussain Khan Saab, even Abbaji, the point at which they start Rupak, I imagine is around the 130, 140 range. But
absolutely.
you feel that the life of that dal permeating so much,
It's up
how
there.
playful it is.
Exactly. It's
Yeah,
insane, honestly. They like I said, as we were mentioning before, the Punjab guys, the ustads have, Peshkar wasn't really something that was so slow. It was let's start with the energy high,
yeah,
and
yeah. They
especially those
want that
Rupak
impact
tabla
to be
solos.
there.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
And those Rupak tabla solos from everyone that you those Punjab doyens,
yeah.
it's phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal.
And the last comment I'll say, because you brought up Jaital, and I recently
Yeah,
listened to a few Instagram stories of your Guruji playing Chaital Ki Sarai
yeah,
in Pakistan not too long ago, and
exactly.
the teka that's given to the tal. Oh my God.
Yeah, it's different. It's different, and that's a very unique tikka that sometimes Ustad Allah Khan Sahib would play these tals with another variation of the tikka,
Right, right.
whether it's Jai tal, whether it was Char tal ki swari, whether it was Panch tal,
Punjabi
Pancham swari.
Punjabi
Exactly. So there's
Damar too. Yeah,
Punjabi Damal,
yeah,
exactly. So
yeah,
there's
yeah,
different nuances of the same tikka, but it's nice. It's audibly, like I said, you need to make an audible soundscape for your viewer or for your listener to really engage with what you're doing.
yeah.
Everything is sound, and that's all my
Mhm.
Guruji was really like. He was drills in that sound is everything, and
Yeah,
and you need someone to enjoy what you're playing, and sometimes change it up. Sometimes give them something different,
yeah,
and sometimes that just might be the taker that you're giving them.
yeah,
Give it something special. It was
yeah,
really really cool tabla solo that was.
yeah. I can't think of a better note to end on than what you just said.
Absolutely.
It's what that's the factor. It's the sound. The more
That's
you
it.
pay attention to,
That's it.
that's all it is.
That's it.
Yeah, yeah.
And also just this my closing sentiments. I just want to urge, I just really want to drill home the fact that whether I'm from, whether I'm my ethnic origin is Pakistan, whether my belief is that I'm a Muslim or whatever it is, and vice versa with other musicians. I think we just need to leave all of that behind us,
Totally.
and just like really, like, I mean, take us for instance. We're
Yeah.
we're in different sides of the world. We've got different cultures. We've got
This is the
different
first time
beliefs.
talking to each other,
This
actually.
is the first time we're talking, but I mean, we shouldn't just be so narrow-minded.
No,
And I
no.
think it's so important, especially in this field, to
Yeah,
just be open and just
yeah,
learn from everyone
yeah.
and, avoid this subconscious toxicity that we might have
Of course.
just
And yeah,
just developed over just by human beings. We do so as a result of,
yeah,
just groups and socializing. But I think this is our opportunity to really just work together and create, like we said in the beginning, just beautiful music using
yeah,
like-minded people,
yeah.
irrespective of caste, creed, or anything.
And at the end of the day, I think that leaves us all with the feeling of being so much more secure within ourselves,
Yeah, 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 yeah,
to
absolutely.
express and to also share and to also, you know, we talk about sort of what makes, the whole premise of this series is tabla players living away from the land. So at times it gets
Yeah,
lonely. It does get extremely
it
lonely.
does.
You know,
It does. It
you're
does.
on a path that you might not really see where it's ending, where the trees are lined, but having these conversations, having these moments of connection makes a huge difference.
It really does. And like you said, we're so far away. It's almost incumbent upon us as the diaspora to get rid of these,
It is.
ingrained
It's our
things that
responsibility.
it's our responsibility. We have to. I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
irrespective, we just need to be open and we need to be the flag bearers of this.
Of
Let's
course.
break down cultural barriers and let's break down these issues that have just subconsciously been part of us for such a long time.